people have different definitions of what ultra-processed food is, but if it's 10 or more chemicals and none of them are the original ones, it's not corn, it's the corn syrup, or it's the extract of something. That's ultra-processed food that has nothing to do with the originals, is poor quality food. In the UK, 50% of our meals are ultra-processed by those definitions. In the US, it's 60%. And in countries like Portugal in Europe, it's 10%.
Wow, there you go.
And it's not because Portuguese are rich. For those that don't know, it's just because they don't have a culture of eating this kind of cheap, ready meal, frozen foods that we've been overrun with. And it's no surprise that in Europe, we are the fattest, and in the world, the US are the fattest. It's a direct correlation.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost, just that stat there with, in Portugal, 10% of their food comes from ultra-processed food products. That in itself, Tim, if I think about that, that could almost cut right through all the dietary tribal wars right there, in the sense that, is it carbs v fat v protein that's the issue? Or actually, is it simply that the food that you are eating, let's make it minimally processed. Let's actually make it more close to its natural state. It's hard for me to draw any other conclusion. As I get, in certain instances, you can play around with macronutrients and get a good outcome. I get that. I've done that before with patients, but by and large, I'm not sure if we're going down the right road there.
It's the billion-dollar food companies that have been setting the agenda about research have managed to avoid any decent studies comparing junk foods against normal foods. And they've continued to fund all this work about low-calorie products, low-fat products, and kept these in the guidelines without ever talking about this other sort of elephant in the room, because it's not in their interest, because every year they're selling us more of this stuff that gets relatively cheaper compared to the more natural foods that have a proper food matrix and don't just get instantly dissolved as soon as they hit your stomach. Yeah. And they've had this vested interest in doing this, and that's why we're deluded into having ridiculous TV programs about calorie counting and the dangers of fats and this obsession on our labels, which most people don't understand anyway, which detract again from the quality. And only a few countries have got this. Only a few countries, but there's some examples in the book, and a few in South America, like Chile, have managed to take on the companies and the government and managed to get, instead of a food label, they just have a black dot that says ultra-processed, avoid. And all the kids now understand that. And they took off the cartoon animals off the cereal packets. In the same way we did with smoking cigarette packets. It was no longer we used to have cowboys on them and glamorous women and various other things. It's not different. It's the same way. But this is, and it's all a smokescreen to cover up the fact that every year we're eating more and more ultra-processed junk food that has just got more and more chemicals to alter the mouthfeel, so it makes up for the lack of natural stuff. And it's hurting by having it sort of, it doesn't lend itself to a good meal. And so it lends itself to this perpetually snacking, grazing world, which is really bad metabolically for us. Yeah. And the one study that was done on this has clearly shown that you get these two matched meals to this randomized group. It was done by the NIH just over a year ago. And, there's a clear difference in appetite and going back for more. If you give people buffets of both, they liked both foods equally. They were done to be highly appetizing. But the processed food made people, it didn't satisfy them. They kept going back for more. So they ended up eating 30% more.
Yeah. That was Kevin Hall's study, I think,
Yes.
wasn't it? Yeah. I mean, remarkable.
But what was remarkable is just how few studies there are like that.
Yeah.
Why? You'd think, these are like drugs we take every day of our lives. If it was a medicine, every time there was a new processed food product, it would have to go through some testing, and the pharmaceutical companies have to spend $1 billion to get a new drug. These guys say, okay, it's fine. And if you complain, they say, well, you can't prove it's bad for us. Therefore, it's fine. So they've reversed the whole argument.
Yeah, I know.
And you take that with, I have this particular thing about artificial sweeteners.
Yeah.
I've had arguments with these companies, and they have these pressure groups, and action against sugar, and they're sort of sponsored by the artificial sweetener companies, and their view is, well, show us the study that proves it's dangerous. Well, I would say, well, you don't do that for drugs. You have to first prove it's not harmful.
Yeah, show us the study that proves it's safe, right? But in the diet myth, I think you spoke about artificial sweeteners, and I'm pretty sure you expressed a bit of concern about them. So what is your current view on artificial sweeteners?
All the data suggests that when you do a clinical trial and you give kids or overweight adults either 2 cans of fizzy drinks with sugar or 2 cans of the diet equivalent, and you do that for 6 months or so, you do not see any difference in weight or diabetes risk or any other metabolic parameters. So there's no clear benefit from swapping from someone from a sugar drink to a diet drink, except maybe for your dentist. Okay, so the dentists like it because definitely it's good for your teeth. And so that fact alone, think about it. In each, the average can will have maybe 150 calories, so people have 2 a day at least. That's 300 calories less. Why are these kids and these adults not losing some weight? No, it wouldn't be massive, but we're told that would be about 15% of our intakes, right? So if you believe the calories in, calories out, actually they should lose weight. They don't. So clearly, in my view, something else is happening metabolically to these individuals. Either their brain is being reset by the sweetness chemicals, so it's at a neural level, or something is happening metabolically, and you are getting some change in insulin in ways we still don't understand. And I've put myself with monitors and given myself sucralose, and I can see I do get a sugar peak, and my insulin peaks strangely with the sweetness, which I can't explain. Or more likely, it's affecting our gut microbes, and so they don't know how to deal with these chemicals, which are all derived from things like petrol and paraffin, very ultra things that we were never supposed to eat. And so they produce weird chemicals in response, and those chemicals then have a reaction on our body, which interferes with the metabolism and, in a way, either makes us put on some weight or predisposes to diabetes in the same way as the sugar. So we don't know the mechanisms yet. There may be differences between them. They definitely work in different ways, and some people might be okay with some and not with others, because I admit everyone is unique. But I think the whole idea of reducing sugar by just adding unlimited amounts of these chemicals, which is one side effect of the sugar levy, has to be thought through, and we should be weaning people off ultra sweetened products, which make them more likely, particularly kids, to seek sugar and avoid sour things, which may be good for them. And that's my major worry. So, I'm looking forward to seeing whether stevia, for example, which would appear to be the more natural of these ones, does have any particular benefits. But I suspect that this whole sweetness thing, by artificially creating these sort of flavors that people crave, is going to have some other knock-on effects down the line that we don't know about. So we should be teaching kids and adults how to go back to enjoying things that like water or like teas and herbal teas and things that have a bit of interest in it rather than this blunderbuss, massive amounts of sugar, whether it's fake or real.
It's amazing. My kids are sort of 10 and 7 at the moment, and it's amazing how many of their friends don't drink water.
They're allergic.
No, it's kind of it's really sad actually on a deep level, because if you think about it in terms of our evolutionary heritage, we could never have survived if we didn't drink water, right? 500 years ago, I don't think we had the choice to not drink water, whereas now we have that choice, and I suspect it's because it's being conditioned out of them via society, via certain choices that they've been given. Because I just fundamentally cannot believe that a human being cannot drink water. But just to be super compassionate to parents who are listening who might struggle with their own children, I get it. I get it can be tough, but actually it's very unnatural to not drink water.
No, totally agree. But I think it's, as you said, part of conditioning. And, I go into the water business in the book in a fair way. And, we've been conditioned that tap water is perhaps bad for us, and it tastes bad, or has metallic things in it, or there've been history of you go abroad and everyone's all don't drink the water. What are you gonna? It could be deadly, and that fueled this whole rise in mineral waters and this con that basically Pepsi and Coca-Cola and Nestle take tap water and they just stick it through a processing plant and rebottle it minus any taste, and do that. But and then have to add some flavorings to it, as they were doing with for kids, to add a twist of fake lime or orange to make it palatable. No, absolutely. I think really important we get kids' taste back, reset the thermostat away from this super sweetness that is the problem, because they can't then appreciate other foods, because in a way everything's set so high that they need it. And
I love that phrase, reset the thermostat. That's exactly what it is, really. I think I can't remember how I put it in my very first book. I wrote about, if a child, 100 years ago, the taste of a ripe peach on a nice, in the peak of summer, that would be like a treat. It would be, man, this is so gorgeous and sweet. Whereas I think if you're used to having things like Haribos or, every day, and that becomes your definition or your normal sweetness is a packet of sweets, then of course a peach no longer holds the magical allure that it used to. Yeah. And I think it's just been this steady downgrading of our taste buds.
When did you have a grape that was slightly tangy? When I was a kid, they were always a bit sour, and there was the odd sweet one, but you like that sweet sour sort of mix, but they've virtually disappeared. Now they're all bred for super sweetness, and so you just can't get. We're losing that range of taste, and I think a lot of this is because of sugar and artificial sweeteners, and the fact that
it is
kids are brought up, through this mechanism, and that has a knock-on effect on the ability then to taste, to have bitter vegetables and all these other things.
If you enjoyed that clip, here's another powerful clip that I think you are really going to enjoy.
Blood pressure comes down, joints seem to get better, bowel symptoms seem to get better. This is going to keep your eyesight. This is going to keep you from getting dementia, renal disease, peripheral vascular disease, and cancers. You are not your habits. You can do it.